Good evening, everybody. Welcome into the LFC Transfer Room. It's a late night Wednesday stream. I'm Jack, delighted to be alongside Race and Anthony here today for some breaking news in Liverpool in terms of outgoings. The news being broken this evening, very late for you, Anthony. You're awake and you're alert for this one. Jordan Henderson leaning towards a move to Al-ETTIFAQ in Saudi Arabia. They're prepared to offer him £700,000 per week is the rumored figure they're ready to offer him, which is more than 4 times what he currently makes at Liverpool. Race, first of all, how are you doing this afternoon for my fellow American?
Doing good. I mean, we're kind of been hoping for some news here recently. Of course, preseason training, the guys are just getting back this week. But, we're looking for some action, some dominoes to fall here. And it looks like this could be something here.
Could be indeed. Anthony, yourself, how are you doing?
I'm doing very well, thank you, Jack. My day was made even better by the news broken maybe an hour ago, seeing Henderson or the Dave Olsey Cup exclusive. Jordan Henderson might leave the club. He's past it now, so I think it's the right time for him to move on.
We'll discuss that and a lot more in today's stream. If you're here live with us this evening, UK time, feel free to jump in the comments, give us your thoughts. If you're watching this on Thursday morning, having maybe gone to bed at a reasonable time, turned your phone off, gone to bed, and then waking up to an explosion in your group chats and across the news, feel free to drop your comments in the thoughts in the comments down below. Anthony, you I think might be the most opinionated among us here about Jordan Henderson. I'll let you swing the discussion to start. Where do you stand on this? What kind of thoughts go through your head when you hear about this rumored move?
At first, I didn't believe it. I think we did a stream. Were you on there as well when it was about Dream Summers and someone put Sal Henderson? I was like, isn't like favourite? And I think there's the odd joke about, maybe Gerrard will sign Henderson for a silly amount, and somehow he's managed to come true. I'm glad that he's nowhere near good enough. He's been rubbish for the past 3 seasons. But why were no other Premier League clubs after him? Because he's not at the level of a Premier League club. He's a Championship level player. He's a rubbish player, and thank goodness he's gone.
Not gone yet, Anthony. There still is a time for the tail to turn, so it's not done. We should be making that very clear. Race, I'll let you get your thoughts in as well, and then we'll kind of crossfire, discuss it as we are.
Yeah, and kind of looking at the discussion around Henderson, and we saw this move to be rumored, last week or so. In terms of should we keep Henderson around, and I think a lot of us, agree that the player on the field, that what we see from him on the field, we wouldn't mind seeing that leave because we want to revamp our midfield and we're bringing in players and whatnot. But I think off the field, certainly as a leader and a captain, and the possibility of losing both Milner and Henderson in the same summer is a little unsettling. I think because there is a value to having a strong leader in the locker room, certainly around a team, a successful team that Liverpool want to be. And so again, the player that we lose, the ability on the field, I don't think anyone's going to be losing sleep over that. But certainly having that, that leader, and he's been with the club for so long, been our captain for so long, I think that's a bridge that we're kind of nervous to cross the scene. Okay, who's going to be the leader, on the team? Certainly there are some options, and we'll talk about that, I'm sure. But it's a little uncertain with the leader of the quality of the person that we are seeing possibly leave.
Mm-hmm. I'll give my thoughts before we can swing it a bit further. Look, Anthony, I think you and I have a lot of similar beliefs in terms of the midfield quality. I wanted to gouge my eyes out watching Jordan Henderson a lot last year, and it was in equal parts frustration with the role he was being forced to play and his inability to play it, because he's 33 now. I'm not going to say he's past it completely, but as a week in, week out option, he is past it. And I think it's hard to look at that any other way. Great leader, great individual, but if he's playing more than every other match as an option off the bench, I don't think you're getting the best out of him. So if he was kept around with our midfield signings, I feel like this year he actually might be able to return to a very pleasant role, good balance in the squad. So I was not like pushing him out the door. So to see him being open to this is quite surprising to me. Anthony, I'm going to put the leadership issue onto you because as a player, obviously he has his flaws. I think anybody who believes anything about Jordan Henderson can recognize that at his age where he is currently, there are flaws to his game. But as a leader, losing that presence, how detrimental is that going to be? What reservations should you have about moving him on after losing Milner, Firmino, Oxlade-Chamberlain, Naby Keita this summer already?
I love how you throw Keita in there. It's always going to be a question, though, to be fair, like, no matter what time he leaves, because nobody's seen as that. I don't know how to explain it, really. But someone's got to step up, whether it's Van Dijk, Salah, Alisson, Trent, or whoever it is. I think Van Dijk's vice captain, is he? So he'll probably take over. And his performances for Netherlands aren't exactly great. But having said that, people could say that. But De Bruyne, is he Belgium's captain? They're not exactly great either. So anything can happen. And I think Van Dijk probably is the best position to take over. And who knows what can happen. But yeah, I think it's going to happen eventually. And you got to move on from him. We can talk about that leadership aspect, but at the same time, we're in Europa League now, so much that leadership aspect got us. Even with Milner in the team, even with Henderson in the team, and I think he's been here 13 years now, and with all due respect to him, obviously he is a great servant to the club, but we've won one Premier League and one Champions League in 13 years, and that's not to say that we should be ungrateful, but for the level of quality this team has got, that I don't think that's good enough. And maybe if we had swapped it out earlier, we could have seen maybe one or two more additions to that trophy cabinet, but who knows?
This is clearly, Anthony, you were magically typing this even though you were talking about re-sign Naby Keita. Him and I, Anthony, both, we were on the Naby Keita fan train until the very, very end. Unfortunately, he cannot take over the captain's armband. He has departed the club already. Matt making the point, wouldn't rush him to get rid. And that's what I want to talk about now is the dynamic of him leaving the club. It's not like Liverpool's pushing him out. I don't think Klopp would ever do that. It's that he's willing to go. Race, for you on that aspect, how surprising is it, considering that Henderson, he's your captain, and he's willing to go to Saudi Arabia to make a lot of money. Like, the money is humongous, and that's the biggest draw for him, obviously. How surprising was that for you to see that he might be the one who's pushing for this move?
Yeah, it's definitely surprising because when you think of, these guys that are now going to the Saudi Arabian League, you think it's just kind of a money grab, and you kind of question their love for the game and stuff like that. Because, going to the Saudi Arabian League, and when you still have some good, years ahead of you, it's raising some, it kind of questions your passion, or the ambition, I should say. That's the word I was looking for. Ambition, like why would you go there other than just for money? And, to see Henderson, who's, been at the club for so long, he's, been our captain, for so long. He took over for Gerrard. And of course he's going, he would rumored to go to the club that Gerrard is obviously the manager of now. So obviously that's kind of you would think that's a reason why he would go there. It's definitely, it's interesting, to leave such a club of Liverpool's stature and the success that he's had. And, he's not necessarily out of the picture. Yes, we bought in players, but, he still has a role in the team, albeit one that we want to see kind of diminish and decrease in the next couple of years. He has 2 years left on his contract. It's certainly surprising when you think that he's just going to kind of jump ship here. Of course, you have, next summer with the Euros, I'm sure he wants to be in the England team too. And, it's kind of also a thing where, we saw it this year with Firmino and Milner. They kind of announced, they were leaving before the end of the season, so that they kind of got that proper send off. And I feel, unless there's something that could happen here in preseason or whatever, I feel like he'd kind of want to have that send off, that final match or whatever, because he has been such a good servant to the club. And so, yeah, it's definitely surprising that a move, it would happen in the summer here, kind of just on the spot. But again, that's kind of what we're seeing with this Saudi Arabian, league here. They're not afraid to splash the cash for some players, definitely. And, who is, $700K a week. I mean, that's a lot of money to turn down.
We haven't really fully, Anthony, I think, mentioned it offhand, but Steven Gerrard obviously taking over as the manager. It really is a weird feeling as a Liverpool fan, because there was that, albeit pretty funny, image of Gerrard sitting in that desk looking kind of out of place. There was a funny tweet that said he looked like he was I'm not even trying to remember, but there was a lot of funny jokes about him looking like that. There were serious discussions about what a Liverpool legend going on to take that kind of money and be an ambassador for that league and the issues that exist in that region of the world, what that meant, and then now to have Henderson to double up on that Liverpool legend. Because Anthony, maybe you might take discomfort in calling him a legend. I'm not sure how you would, but I think he's one of our greatest legends of the recent modern history, considering he's lifted some of our major trophies that we've had such barren runs for. It just is so mind-boggling to me that a guy who makes around 10 million pounds a year, taxes obviously take away a lot of that, different in Saudi Arabia, so he's going to be taking home a lot more money than he is here in the United Kingdom. But it's not like he's, his family isn't going to be set up for life financially currently. Like, that's my biggest reservation with all of these. He how can you turn down that money? He's getting paid 4 times what he's being paid. But what is he giving up? How many people are going to look at him differently? The great things he's done, being an advocate for the LGBTQ community in Liverpool, and now he's going to a country where it's illegal to be homosexual. It feels like a slap in the face to some of the efforts that he's done in the effort of grabbing a lot of money, when he already has, unless he's been splurging it on unnecessary things and he's wasted it all away and he needs a big payday. He doesn't seem like that kind of guy. I don't understand, especially this season. He could have turned everything around, Anthony. I think if Henderson stayed another year, he could have changed your mind. He could have had some really good matches this year, not had many major clankers. And you may have said he was bad these last 2 seasons before, but I'm a bit, my heart has softened a bit because he's played a bit better this year. A bit of a ramble from me, but it's just stunning to me that Henderson does that. Anthony, I'll let you jump in if you had any comments to add.
Jack. Would Henderson have surprised me with a good year? He's had 3 good seasons in Liverpool shirt. I do agree, though. I was talking about it with my mum earlier with the whole he's so anti-LGBTQ. So forgive me if I don't know the rest of it. And he's joining the most anti-LGBT sort of country, and it don't really make sense. And this isn't a dig at Liverpool fans, where would say so much. We need people who care about the club, who want to play for the shirt, but he's just leaving for money. Don't get me wrong, I don't blame him. 700k a week, 100% take that, but it just seems ridiculous for him to leave at this point, especially without a farewell. Like Ray's pointed out, Firmino and Milner already had those send-offs, so he felt like Henderson probably should have deserved one as well, and he's just leaving now, like out the blue. And on top of that, I don't know, it feels a bit not tainted. I know the correct word. Calling him a Liverpool legend. You're gonna have to forgive me.
I know it feels weird to call him a legend because he's leaving on his stock is at its lowest, honestly, as a Liverpool player, and he's making such disgraceful, feels like way too harsh, disgraceful move. But it feels like he's not moving on at the right time. Like when Gerrard left, he kind of knew he wasn't really bringing it to Liverpool anymore. He wanted to try something different. He took a payday in the MLS. It's not like there's, and that has its own issues with it too. I'm not claiming that just going to the Middle East and making money there is a problem. You can make arguments about Gerrard all you want, but he didn't leave, with people cheering him out of the club. And it does make me sad that Henderson has put himself in that spot, that the club's put him in the spot where he's been forced into that role that kind of has made his performances deteriorate a little bit, and he's kind of being cheered out and hounded out. It's just tough. It's tough to watch in a lot of ways. Race, for you, on the reaction, it's really tough to expect what the fan base is going to do, considering how polarizing Henderson was when he played for us, let alone now that he's going to go. What do you expect if he moves on to Saudi Arabia for this kind of cash? What do you expect the fan reaction to be as a whole? Obviously, on individual levels, you can have your own opinions, but what do you expect the general sentiment to be? It's a tough question to answer, but I'm interested in your thoughts.
Yeah, it is tough. And you talk about, Henderson being a Liverpool legend, and, but it's kind of why would you classify him as a legend just because he was our captain in one of our most successful runs, what's the kind of criteria for that? And so, when you talk about Henderson's role in this team, he's never been the standout, the star player. When you talk about any other legend, he was never kind of the main guy. He was obviously had some good years and was rock solid and a great leader and all that. But, true legend status, would he kind of achieve that in the eyes of the fan base? And, of course, it's a different viewpoint than what, we have in America here versus what you guys in the UK and whatnot. And certainly for me as a more recent Liverpool fan, I know he came to the club in it was 2011, and of course took over the captain role for Gerrard when he did. I'm at the end of the day, I can speak for myself here. I mentioned the captain part and what a strong leader we would be losing. At the end of the day, I wouldn't mind seeing him leave. The player, of course, on the field, we understand he's past his best days there. But as a leader, I definitely feel confident that we have other guys in the building that will be strong leaders and will step up and take that next step in that leadership role. So I would imagine that there are certainly fans that feel the same way as I do. Losing the player, what he stands for the club is good. But again, he knows that his time has come. We've made the investments in the midfield, possibly more coming in now that in his absence, like I said, the dominoes will fall. Maybe we'll go for another player now. And so, I think we'll all get past it at some point, especially if we hit the ground running this season or winning a lot of games. I think winning cures all, ill thoughts you might have about a club. And I think if we just focus on that and what our best team will look like moving forward, won't include Henderson if he's still around even.
Yeah. There was a comment that I want to harp back on from El Hero saying, can't have a squad player on 200K. It's a good point. He mentions Thiago too. I want to bring him up. We'll have a few more thoughts on Henderson, but also included in this, but kind of buried because of the bigger news, Henderson leaving, is that Thiago expected to stay for another year. Brace, I'll let you jump in on that. I mean, there were rumors about him going to Saudi Arabia, going to Barcelona, a lot of different potential avenues for him at his age, what he could potentially offer. He's also a player who is, I think, divided more opinion than I expected him to. I think he's a top-class player, but his injuries have limited his ability to contribute. We've seen him stay in place of Henderson, not necessarily in place of, but with all those factors considered. Thiago, for you, where kind of do you stand on that?
Yeah, I mean, he's got just a year left on his deal, and of course, if Saudi Arabian League is making a move for him, they would obviously put together some sort of money. But I think we're kind of reserved that he's gonna not get a contract renewed. I mean, he's shown, especially this last year, he's just can't be relied upon on a week-to-week basis. The injury record speaks for itself. Certainly, he's had some good moments on the field and played a big role in a couple seasons ago when we had our quadruple charge. But we're definitely, again, it's all about the moves we made and kind of the mentality of where we're at right now. We want to bring in some new players, some new legs, and he's just not the type of midfielder we're looking for. Certainly, again, if he sticks around, he'll have a role. Can certainly have some good moments and whatnot, but again, I think his days of being a key contributor week in, week out are probably past him as well, just with the injuries and the inability to rely on him.
Yeah. Anthony, for you on Thiago, the news him staying for another year, where do you kind of fall on your happiness? I don't want to say unhappy to have Thiago at your club. He's a top class player when he's on his day, but the issue is his day, as Race mentions. You question how often that is.
Yeah, I've got love for these injury-prone players apparently, but you know what? Something I think you said it last year. It might have stuck out where you said you can't afford to have like more than one luxury player in the team, and I think you can afford to keep Thiago in the team. No matter, obviously, don't pay him ridiculous wages, but because he's just that good enough. He's our best midfielder, even though we've signed McAllister and Soboslai or Szoboszlai, however you pronounce it, and he's our best midfielder. And for me personally, I think he's top 3 midfielders in the Premier League. Maybe a bit of a stretch, but he's just that good. And when he does play for us, you always see that quality. Probably the right decision to not extend it, but I think we can have a proper sort of discussion on that, and seeing how he performs at the end of this season. Because the year when we were competing for quadruple, he was one of the main guys, especially in midfield. In the midfield, he was the main guy, along with Keita and Fabinho too, and. Will I throw Henderson in there? I'm not sure, but yeah, I think he's that good. You have to keep him for the season, and if we do sell him, like what we're getting 10, 15 million for him, so we're not really going to make that much back from him. Question, but back to Henderson as well. How much do you guys reckon we'll get for him?
That was what I was going to begin to segue into a little bit. Was that price? I said my gut reaction was Well, I hope that Klopp is pulling, Jordan aside and saying, "Are you sure you want to do this? Like, if you want to, I think he's earned the right to decide his future. The club should then negotiate a very fair fee. I think he's earned that right as being captain for so long. Yes, he's under contract for 2 more years, but I think he's allowed that bit of leeway. I said 30 million pounds, so we should be hardballing for. I don't think we would get that. I think if you get half that, that's a decent return. I don't know, Race, for you, what are you expecting in terms of a fee? Because that was also part of the reporting that Al-ETTIFAQ don't want to pay much, which makes sense because they feel like they got a lot of leverage here. They got the player's head turned. The club might be ready to see his wages get off the books. There's a lot of, it doesn't feel like Liverpool have a great amount of leverage in terms of getting money out of the situation. What do you expect? What are you hoping for in terms of money?
Yeah, well, I think what was it, 17 million I saw at first was kind of the original floating price. I kind of agree with you there. Maybe 30 million is what we should maybe be looking for. And now, best case scenario. But again, the Saudi Arabia, they made it no secret that they're gonna spend some money if they really want a player. And I think, I don't know, because we don't know what Henderson's decision necessarily is, or he's leaning towards it, is the report. I think they're obviously looking at the Gerrard Henderson kind of, if they can get those two together, that's kind of a nice little storyline or piece for them. Hey, look, we got these two former teammates together and whatnot. Captains kind of took over. I don't know. I don't have too much thought on the price. We'll obviously try to get as much as we can, just some sort of funds coming in, because we haven't really sold anyone this summer, have we? I don't. Yeah. So we got to start somewhere. Get some incomings. Hopefully that'll maybe be Henderson to start with. So I think it's hard to say with these negotiations, especially with the league that's coming in now. So.
It is, Anthony, for you. What do you expect? What are you hoping for? You asked the question. I'm interested in what your thoughts are on it.
Same as you guys, probably about 30 mil, because they signed Neves for what, 55 or something like that. He's not worth 55. Koulibaly, he's not worth 21 million, even though it's such a short price tag. So hardball him. The fact they're paying him 700k a week, surely you can get some sort of high price tag out of him. So yeah, about 30 mils, right?
It feels hard. Race, go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say they're offering such a high weekly wage. Like, why I don't see kind of we're not going to pay as much. We don't want to pay a lot for Henderson. Well, let's see when they really want to up the price. Liverpool do if they want to. Like, I think it'll be more than 20 mil. I would say.
I honestly don't think it's going to be. I think it's going to be like 10 million. I think that's what the price is actually going to be if he moves, because I think what I can imagine negotiations playing out as is Klopp goes to Jordan, says, "Are you sure you want this move?" He says, "Boss, I'm going to get 30 million plus a year with this. My family is going to be able to live a life that we can't even imagine." And he's like, "I want to do this." So then the Liverpool give the green light for him to leave, and they're like, "You can go," but then they want to play hardball on the price. I feel like they really can't like give him the green light to leave, but then also be like, "We need to get this pay, or we're not going to let him leave." But you're letting him leave because of how you're treating him nicely. So I feel like we're really kind of. I don't think we're going to be like dying if it's 20 versus 10 versus 30. I don't think there's a massive it's obviously different money. More money is better for the club, obviously, but I don't think it's going to transform things too massively. I'll let us get in our final thoughts. We wanted to make this kind of a quick stream this evening. Anthony, I know it's later for you, so I'll let you get your final thoughts in first. I'll actually pose this to you before your final thoughts. If he goes, how are you going to look back on him? Is it going to be positively? Is it going to be negatively? How are you going to look back on him fondly a few years from now, telling your grandkids in the future, "Oh, Jordan Henderson, I remember when he used to play for Liverpool"? Where do you fall on that?
Right, Henderson's name will be forbidden from my household. No, I'm joking. He's just a general player for me. Not in a horrible way. I know people have that sentiment towards players who are there for a long time, but it's like with Wijnaldum as well. I thought I was so attached to him as a player, and as soon as he's gone, I don't care anymore. Like I forgot he still plays for PSG the other day, and obviously I remember now. But yeah, I couldn't care less, to be honest. I'm happy he's going now, just because he's been here 2-3 seasons too long, in my opinion.
Race, for you, final thoughts on Henderson, on the stream, on anything that we've discussed here today.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I kind of mentioned before. He's just kind of been, obviously he's had some good moments and been a key player at times, but he's just kind of been and not to be unfair to him, but he's been the captain, during a very successful time for us. And so does that maybe overrate him a little bit? But maybe us true Liverpool fans maybe understand that his role wasn't you know as big as what maybe portrayed to be in the future. But yeah, like I said, I think if he leaves, I'm not going to lose much sleep over it. I'll just I'm doesn't change the way I think about how this season will be for us. I'm still very optimistic we can kind of get back to the top, and that'll just kind of a side note, in the season, like, oh, we lost our captain of so many years, but we can still keep going on. I will. This point just kind of came into my head too, because Manchester City, they lost Vincent Kompany, who was their captain, for a long time, and they just kind of switched gears there with another captain. I think it was Gundogan is their captain now. And so they're still very successful. Obviously, it's a different, different situation. But it's just kind of you can kind of change captains on the fly, if you will, and we still got a very strong leadership in the team. So I'm still optimistic where we're heading, this season.
Definitely. And Anthony, I posed you a question rather than get your final thoughts. Anything else you wanted to add before we get out of here?
No.
Cool.
Sorry.
Hey, you said your piece. You said your piece. I'll say my final piece. I think there's I don't know fully where Ant is taking this, but that's my final thought. It's surprising how and also this one about I never would have expected Henderson to be the player to go to Saudi Arabia. Because you're allowed. It's a free market. You can make money the way you want to make it. If you want to turn a blind eye to some ills of society, you're allowed to do that. That I cannot forbid you from doing that. But I will look at Henderson a bit differently. I will look at him a bit like this could have been the year where he changed the viewpoint of a lot of fans by playing a very shadowing role on the club, helping out lead this next generation, and then go off into the sunset, hopefully with another major title or two. But Anthony, you mentioned it. He's been here for over a decade, and we've won one Premier League and one Champions League. Great for the last 20 years of our club, but not as much as maybe we should have won. And was he at fault in some of those those runs? You can make that argument, but that's his legacy. It's going to be controversial. It's going to have all these other thoughts to it that I think is really unfortunate, because he's been a brilliant player, and as a human, one of my favorite players. That's more than the Liverpool badge. So for me, it's a very conflicting thing, because if he goes for 20 million, and we didn't talk about it today, but if we sign Romeo Lavia with that money that we get from Henderson, that's making us better long term on just a pure business end. We're getting 14 years younger with a player who's better right now, and that is just smart business right there. So we'll discuss probably the more pragmatic what's going to happen next later. Oh, well, almost later today at this point. Well, actually, is it past midnight for you, Anthony? I believe it is. So
12 or 6, yeah.
Later today, UK time, on Thursday at 7:30 p.m., our go-to time, we'll be streaming. I'm sure we'll talk about Henderson, but I'm also sure with how this saga has been, we'll have about 18 different twists and turns that have happened in the next, I don't know, about 12 hours or so. But for Race and for Anthony, I've been Jack. Delighted to bring you this short evening stream with some breaking news. Let us know your thoughts in the comments on this video, and make sure you subscribe to the page to get involved in all of our future streams and videos and discuss your thoughts on Liverpool Football Club. But for the gentlemen, I've been Jack. This has been the LFC Transfer Room. We'll catch you next time.